Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. We will be discussing modernization efforts in WIC and FMNP, including the findings from the first annual report that published earlier this year. I'm Carol Gerbelbis. I'm a research analyst at FNS, and I lead the WIC and FMNP modernization evaluation. Also presenting today are Debbie Reed, a senior fellow at Mathematica and the project director for the evaluation, and Sarah White, an analyst at Mathematica and lead author on the first annual report. So I will begin our presentation today with a brief description of WIC and FMNP modernization. Then I'll turn things over to Debbie to discuss how FNS is evaluating these modernization efforts, including descriptions of the evaluation objectives, the data sources for the first annual report, and WIC participation trends. And then after that, Sarah will cover the 2024 annual report, including the grants to WIC and FMNP state agencies and the evaluation's early implementation findings. Finally, Debbie will briefly describe the modernization waivers and upcoming evaluation activities. We'll conclude with time for questions, answers, and discussions. So if you have any clarification questions during the presentation, feel free to put those in the Q&A, but you're also welcome to put questions for the end of the presentation in the Q&A at any time. And just as a reminder, like Rich said, to find the Q&A, you can click the three dots at the bottom of the screen, bottom right of your screen, and then you should find that. So now let's turn to a brief description of WIC and FMNP modernization. WIC, or the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, provides healthy foods, breastfeeding support, nutrition education, and referrals to other services to women, infants, and children. The WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program, or FMNP, which is a mouthful, supports WIC participants in purchasing domestically grown fruits and vegetables in areas where the program operates. Research has shown that WIC reduces healthcare costs, helps families eat healthier diets, and improves pregnancy outcomes. Since its inception in the 1970s, WIC has used a traditional service delivery model, including things like required in-person appointments, limited to no online and digital services, no online shopping, and in past years, use of paper coupons instead of EBT cards. During the COVID pandemic, waivers allowed WIC to quickly pivot to implement some of these options for participants. Recognizing the need to permanently modernize the program in the wake of COVID-19, in 2021, Congress provided FNS with a one-time $390 million appropriation and waiver authority for WIC and FMNP outreach, innovation, and program modernization. With this, FNS provided grants and waivers to all WIC state agencies and supported modernization by providing technical assistance to state agencies and collaborating with partners through cooperative agreements and contracts. This work continues today, and in 2025, Secretary Rollins committed USDA to develop and implement modernized systems, prioritize timely and satisfactory customer service, and strengthen strategies to encourage healthy choices, healthy outcomes, and healthy families. And now I will turn the presentation over to Debbie to discuss how FNS is evaluating this investment in WIC and FMNP modernization. And Debbie, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Rookie maneuver there. Okay, thanks, Carol. I'll start with the evaluation objectives. The first objective is to understand the implementation of the modernization efforts. We'll be examining the progress and the key process outcomes for the modernization projects. The second objective is to understand the implementation of the modernization waivers. We'll be examining which waivers were implemented, how they were implemented, and how waivers contributed to the implementation and outcomes of the modernization projects. The third and final objective is to understand the impact of the modernization projects. We'll measure the success through key outcomes, including program enrollment, participation, retention, redemption of benefits, participant experience, and program access and delivery. The first annual report provides an overview of the modernization efforts underway, highlights early implementation findings, covering activities through September 2024. State agency grantee reports are the main data source for this first report. The grantee reports describe overall progress, achievements, and challenges. We also used other grant and waiver materials, including applications and amendments, tracking conducted by FNS, and WIC participation data. This figure shows WIC participation annually for federal fiscal years from 2018 through 2024. WIC participation was 6.2 million in fiscal year 2021, and it grew to 6.8 million in September 2024. WIC modernization was funded in 2021. The cash value benefit also increased in 2021, but that was not funded by WIC modernization funds. The modernization grants to state agencies were funded starting in September 2022, with final grants funded in September 2024. As WIC modernization progresses in the coming years, the evaluation will determine whether the efforts are associated with changes in participation. And now I'll turn the presentation to Sarah to describe the state agency grants.
Thanks, Debbie. Now I'll talk about direct grants to WIC and FMNP state agencies. Between 2022 and 2024, FNS offered 6 grant opportunities to state agencies. These grants aimed to improve the WIC shopping experience, to expand access to farmers markets by transitioning to electronic purchasing methods or e-solutions, and to modernize technology and service delivery in WIC. For example, adding online applications, text messaging, document upload capabilities, and moving from offline to online EBT technology, which enables WIC families to receive benefits without having to visit a WIC clinic and makes online shopping possible. 2 grants fall under the Modernizing Technology and Service Delivery focus area: the WIC Technology and Service Delivery Improvement Grant and the Offline to Online EBT Grant. The WIC Technology and Service Delivery Improvement Grant was awarded in fiscal year 2022 to 44 lead state agencies. Another 22 state agencies were involved as partners with the lead state agencies, bringing the number of state agencies participating in the grant to 66. As of September 2024, 10 state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation, 33 state agencies were implementing, and 1 state agency completed the Technology and Service Delivery Improvement Grant. The Offline to Online EBT Grant was awarded in fiscal year 2023 to 7 lead state agencies, with 10 state agencies as partners. These grants covered all of the state agencies that had offline EBT still. As of September 2024, 4 state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation and 3 state agencies were implementing. The focus area Improving the Shopping Experience, the Shopping Experience Improvement Grant was awarded in fiscal year 2022 to 21 state agencies. As of September 2024, 4 state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation, 15 state agencies were implementing, and 2 state agencies completed the Shopping Experience Improvement Grant. And turning now to expanding access to farmers market focus area, FMNP e-solution grants were awarded in fiscal years 2022, 2023, and 2024 to a total of 37 state agencies. As of September 2024, a total of 3 state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation, while 26 state agencies were implementing, and 8 state agencies completed their FMNP e-solution grant. The WIC Modernization Grant and WIC General Infrastructure Grant fund projects that cut across focus areas. The WIC Modernization Grants were awarded in fiscal year 2023 to all 88 state agencies. And as of September 2024, 57 state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation, 31 state agencies were implementing, and no state agencies completed. The WIC General Infrastructure Grant was awarded in fiscal year 2024 to 7 lead state agencies. As of September 2024, all 7 lead state agencies were in the planning phase of implementation. Now I'll turn to our early implementation findings. Using the grantee and other related reports that Debbie mentioned earlier, the study team has analyzed over 3,000 documents covering the period from grant announcements through September 2024. In this section, I'll discuss the state agency projects and early implementation findings for the projects in 3 focus areas: modernizing technology and service delivery, improving the shopping experience, and expanding access to farmers markets. I'll conclude with a discussion of common challenges experienced across WIC and FMNP state agencies. I'll start off talking about early implementation findings for projects aimed to modernize technology and service delivery. The WIC Technology and Service Delivery Improvement and WIC Modernization grants were awarded to WIC state agencies for planning and implementing technology enhancements that improve the WIC participant experience with the goal of increasing participant enrollment, reducing unnecessary administrative burden for both participants and administrators, and retaining eligible participants. The most common project areas were data analysis, data visualization, and ongoing measurement projects to support and improve program initiatives or evaluate the participant experience. Appointment scheduling projects to allow participants to schedule appointments without needing to call during clinic hours. Text messaging service projects to allow WIC to engage with participants through channels that are easier and more convenient. And additional technology and/or human-centered design projects. Looking at early implementation highlights and achievements, as of September 2024, 2 WIC state agencies successfully converted from offline EBT technology to online EBT. 7 WIC state agencies implemented text messaging capabilities to remind participants of appointments. 6 WIC state agencies developed data dashboards to aid with the analysis of program performance and support decision-making about program improvements. 5 state agencies developed new participant-facing resources to improve services for individuals with limited English proficiency. 2 state agencies upgraded or implemented a participant portal, online application, and/or telehealth platform to improve access for participants and applicants through web-based resources. 2 state agencies implemented a secure document system to allow participants to upload documentation, streamline the document collection process for certification, and reduce the burden on participants. Here I'll highlight a couple of specific successes. In fiscal year 2024, Missouri WIC completed a statewide launch of software that allows WIC staff to send two-way customized SMS text, voice, and email messages to WIC applicants and participants. They reported sending more than 1.8 million messages across 8 months. In fiscal year 2024, Oregon WIC reported successes in improving text messaging services by expanding their texting platform to all 34 local agencies. They also streamlined WIC application and certification processes by implementing secure document viewing and signing features and appointment notifications. Next, I'll touch on early findings from projects aimed to improve the shopping experience. The WIC Shopping Experience Improvement Grant aims to improve the WIC shopping experience, which is a well-documented pain point for WIC participants. Projects aim to increase the redemption of WIC benefits, improve customer satisfaction, and expand participant access to vendors. Under the WIC Modernization Grant, WIC state agencies also proposed projects related to improving the shopping experience, including projects that make it easier for WIC participants to shop in stores, online shopping projects that implement an online shopping component, mobile pay projects that implement a mobile pay option either within the store or online, and plain language and limited English proficiency support projects that provide shopping-related resources for families with limited English language skills. Turning to the early highlights and achievements, of the 21 WIC state agencies awarded WIC Shopping Experience Improvement Grants in fiscal year 2022, 2 agencies reported successfully completing their projects. And I'll talk more about these projects on the next slide. 6 WIC state agencies have developed and implemented plain language materials and resources for WIC participants with limited English proficiency to use while shopping in stores or online. The most common materials include shopping lists in multiple languages, document translation, and shopping education videos. All 6 WIC state agencies conducted a language needs assessment to determine the languages materials should be translated into. Other activities that WIC state agencies have conducted or are currently conducting include forming partnerships with local grocery stores, mobile app enhancements, hiring new program staff to support project planning and implementation, and targeting media campaigns to highlight WIC shopping. And now turning to a couple examples of specific project successes. In fiscal year 2024, Maine WIC reported on the success of its community health worker program in improving the WIC shopping experience. Community health workers supported participants with limited English proficiency and unhoused WIC eligible families with using eWIC cards and the WIC shopping app and orienting participants to local grocery stores. This initiative has been fully implemented and has already shown improvements in participant level redemption rates. In fiscal year 2024, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian WIC, in collaboration with the Tribal Transit Department, implemented transportation services for eligible WIC participants and their families to shop for WIC groceries. And these services cover up to 2 trips per week. And as of September 2024, they issued a total of 39 transit passes. Next, I'll discuss early findings from projects aimed at expanding access to farmers markets. The FMNP e-Solution grants and WIC Modernization grants include projects to enable participants to purchase fresh and locally grown produce from farmers and farmers markets using electronic purchasing methods, such as the e-Solutions. The 2 types of projects include implementing e-Solutions for FMNP benefits and implementing e-Solutions to support the use of WIC cash value benefits, or CVB, with farmers and farmers markets. Of the 37 WIC and FMNP state agencies awarded FMNP e-Solution grants, 24 reported successfully procuring and implementing e-Solutions as of September 2024. WIC and FMNP state agencies have seen encouraging results after implementing e-Solutions, including increased FMNP participation for 7 projects, a record number of farmers participating for 9 projects, and record-breaking FMNP redemptions for 9 projects. Other activities that helped FMNP state agencies achieve increased numbers of FMNP participants and farmers include training with farmers, extensive community outreach and marketing, providing in-person and virtual technical assistance and one-on-one support to farmers, town hall style meetings to promote FMNP, and text notifications to WIC and FMNP participants about new authorized farmers and farmers markets in their areas. Examples of specific project successes include in fiscal year 2024, Minnesota WIC reported a record number of authorized farmers and farmers markets participating in FMNP, with 151 farmers who were new to the program and 18 authorized farmers markets that were new to the program. Over 300 farmers set up their farmer accounts and began redeeming benefits, which was considered a huge success because Minnesota WIC was unsure if farmers would be willing to transition to an e-Solution. In fiscal year 2024, Chickasaw Nation WIC developed and implemented a web portal for farmers to redeem electronic benefits. The portal allows farmers to set their locations, type in card numbers when they're unable to scan QR codes, provide client balance inquiries, and access transaction history. Chickasaw Nation WIC reported that the portal greatly improved farmer satisfaction. And in fiscal year 2024, Rhode Island WIC successfully implemented trainings with farmers, farmers market managers, and other staff They completed the trainings in groups in advance of the statewide launch of the eSolution system, which included stickers with QR codes. These trainings were deemed successful as all FMNP transactions since May 2024 have taken place using the QR codes. State agencies have also experienced several challenges while planning and implementing modernization projects. The most common challenges include project and implementation delays, including issues with vendors and contracts, state-level procurement processes, policies, and regulations, and updating project plans. Specifically, 33 WIC state agencies reported slow contract negotiations, including delays in executing contracts, poor vendor support and communication, and vendors that lacked capabilities and services to fulfill contract objectives. These issues were experienced both during the contract negotiations and after the contract was executed. 23 WIC state agencies reported barriers to timely project implementation, including frequently changing state procurement policies and procedures, long procurement processing periods, and WIC state agency rules about vendors they could contract. 17 WIC state agencies reported that they were not prepared to allocate funds to specific projects upon receipt of the funding. Therefore, many state agencies opted to conduct needs assessments to determine high priority projects to pursue, which caused delays. 20 WIC state agencies reported experiencing staffing issues, including frequent staff turnover, insufficient staff to support the needs of their modernization efforts, and slow hiring processes. 16 WIC state agencies reported that projects cost more to implement than originally estimated and planned for. In some cases, WIC state agencies needed to update their project plans or reallocate funds, which caused project and implementation delays. 14 WIC state agencies described experiencing competing priority projects at the WIC state agency level, which forced them to update their project timelines or suspend projects altogether. And now I'll turn it back to Debbie.
Thanks, Sarah. So in addition to the direct grants to state agencies that Sarah described, modernization has involved other projects and waivers. FNS funded and is conducting several additional modernization projects through cooperative agreements, contracts, and interagency agreements. For example, one project supports data sharing and referrals with SNAP and Medicaid. Another project supports the development and implementation of online shopping platforms. For a description of the other modernization projects, please see our annual report. It's available at the URL on the slide. In 2021, Congress gave FNS time-limited authority through September 30th, 2024 to grant waivers for WIC and FMNP state agencies to support modernization. FNS approved 1,069 waivers across 24 categories. Waivers were issued to allow state agencies to optimize flexible services in WIC, including virtual services. Waivers were also granted to improve the WIC shopping experience through online shopping and mobile pay projects, and to remove unnecessary administrative burden and improve program access. FNS encouraged state agencies to provide flexible options to WIC participants to improve access to WIC benefits. FNS granted the physical presence waiver and the remote issuance waiver to all 88 WIC state agencies. The physical presence waiver gives state agencies the option to enroll or re-enroll eligible participants in WIC without visiting a clinic in person. The remote issuance waiver gives state agencies the option to issue WIC food instruments and benefits remotely rather than picking them up in person. So I'll finish our presentation with a quick look at evaluation activities. In August, we conducted a webinar for state agencies and a webinar for ITOs describing the evaluation and the data collection activities. Starting in September, we met with each state agency to discuss the specifics of data collection for their state agency. We also began to conduct the first round of annual state agency interviews in September, and we completed most of those interviews this fall, with a few remaining for early next year. This winter, we'll conduct our initial analysis of outcomes and impacts based on the participant and program characteristics data that has already been collected from state agencies under another contract. We'll assess whether the modernization efforts are associated with increases in program enrollment, participation, retention, and redemption of benefits, improvement in participant experience, and reduced disparities in program access and delivery. We also plan to conduct case studies of grant and waiver implementation. Looking further into the future, we plan to conduct additional rounds of state agency interviews and case studies in 2026 and 2027. We also plan to conduct experience surveys for WIC participants, staff, and vendors, with one survey period for each state agency, either in fall 2026 or fall 2027, with the timing chosen by the state agency. We plan to survey WIC staff involved in the modernization activities, including state and local agency staff and WIC clinic staff. We'll have another round of outcome and impact analysis with the release of the next round of participant and program characteristics data in December 2027 or thereabouts. Each year, we'll have an annual report and a webinar. We'll also produce evaluation brief for each state agency annually. We're conducting ongoing review of grantee reports and other documents and ongoing updating of the WIC and FMNP modernization dashboard. The final evaluation report will be completed in September 2028. Carol, over to you.
Great, thank you. So with that, we've completed our presentation and we welcome your input and questions. I don't see any in the Q&A right now, but if you have questions or comments, please use the Q&A feature. And again, to open that, you click on the three dots at the bottom right of your screen and open the Q&A panel to type in your question or comment. And I'll also note that we just put the link to the annual report in the chat. So I hope that came through. That's kind of the summary document that this presentation was based off of. So definitely recommend a look at that. And while we're, oh, here's a question. Does this mean that the waiver will continue through 2028 as you will still be completing the evaluations through 2028? So the waivers are continuing through, I think, September 2026 or until FNS completes evaluation efforts. Will the slide deck be shared? The slide deck will not be shared, but we are going to send a recording of the webinar to everyone who registered for the webinar. So I know this time doesn't work for some people, so everyone can expect to receive a recording. Someone asks, are all reports mentioned available to the public? I'm not sure exactly which reports, but so basically the annual report that we are presenting the findings from today, that's on the FNS website, and the link to that is in the chat. The things like state agency progress reports and things, those are like a grant document that is not available to the public as far as I know, but the findings from it are what we're sharing. And then FNS posts WIC participation data on our website, so you can look there. Oh, and I should also mention, I don't know if we included that here, but there is a dashboard, a public dashboard on the FNS website that summarizes a lot of this content as well. So it includes maps, which shows which state agencies are doing what with their grants and things like that. So I encourage you to look for the dashboard that summarizes all of this. Okay, we have another question. How soon will FMNP data be available for a state agency who adopted in the final 2 phases? I'm not sure exactly what that is referring to.
I can,
okay,
Carol,
go ahead.
so here Sarah talked about what we're finding for state agencies who adopted in fiscal year 2024. So
Okay.
it's really that first round. But in the next annual report, we'll be including folks from other rounds and so forth as we go on. We're conducting those state agency interviews this fall, and we'll be doing that again next year and in 2027. So we'll be asking the state agencies about their experience with FMNP and reporting that to you in the annual reports and in the dashboard.
Thanks, Debbie. Thanks for rescuing me. Okay, well, and Debbie, there is a question asking for the link to the dashboard. Do you think you could post that or send it to Rich so he can post it? And while you're doing that, I can answer the next question, which is, how can you find if your state was part of modernization? And the answer is that all 88 WIC state agencies, so that's, the geographic states as well as the Indian tribal organizations and territories, all WIC state agencies received funding and waivers for WIC modernization. So you can assume that your state did. And if you go to the annual report or the dashboard, which we will post a link to soon, you can learn more about specifically, which grants did they receive and what might they be doing with it.
Rich, I just sent you the link to the dashboard, if you could post that for everyone.
Awesome, there it is. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment. While we're waiting just another minute or two to see if anything comes in, I'll just thank everyone so much for participating. I'm sure many of you on the webinar work for WIC in some capacity or are a vendor or a partner. And so I just want to thank everyone who's working so hard on modernization. I'm not seeing any more questions. So with that, I'll
One more
just say,
question, Carol.
oh, one more
Just
question.
came in.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. 2 more questions. False alarm. Okay. Can you offer additional clarity on who you will be reaching out to for vendor interviews? Debbie, would you be able to take this one?
Yeah. So we have vendor surveys and vendor interviews. On the vendor surveys, we will be reaching out to up to 25 randomly selected vendors for each state agency. So for most state agencies, that includes all the vendors, but for large state agencies, it's just up to 25. But for the interviews, the vendor interviews are part of our case studies. FNS will be choosing 32 locations to do case studies of implementation. And for if a case study is chosen that is looking at shopping or other vendor related activities, then we will be working typically with a local agency, but maybe with the ITO or the state agency to determine which vendors could best speak to the modernization activity and their experience. So in a nutshell, it's to be determined which vendors will be interviewed.
Thanks, Debbie. Okay, a few more questions are coming in. Oh, there's a follow-up to that, Debbie. When you say vendors, do you mean corporate, admin, store managers, cashiers? What do we mean?
So it depends on the nature of the case study. Often for online, we'd be talking to the front online shopping. We'd be talking maybe to the front office type folks or someone, up corporate who's doing the online shopping. But if we were looking at something that was a in-store modernization activity, then we might actually be talking to staff in the store about how that's working for them.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, what have I not answered yet? Okay, there's a question about if USDA will be granting no-cost extensions. I'm not really the person to ask about that, but I can say there have been some no-cost extensions granted, but I can't answer questions about any particular grant per se. Does USDA provide a standard SOP or guidance on various data management and sharing policies? Not sure the answer to that. I'm sorry. Maybe I could put my email in the chat or something and you could send that and I could get back to you, but I'm not sure the answer to that. Okay, and then there's another question. I'm sorry if I missed this, but are there any plans to survey or interview farmers or farmers markets directly or only state agencies regarding the FMNP modernization efforts? Debbie?
Yeah, so for the survey, that will include vendors and authorized farmers and farmers markets. For the interviews, again, it's dependent on the nature of the case study, but I expect we will have at least 1 or 2 case studies of FNMP, and in those locations, we'd be seeking to speak with farmers and farmers market staff.
And late breaking, one of my colleagues who's listening in gave me an update on the no cost extensions. So I recommend that you contact your regional office if you're wondering about a no cost extension. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. So I think I'll move to wrap up. If anything comes in, I can answer it. Again, thank you all so much for participating in this webinar. We appreciate your comments and questions, and you can learn more about WIC modernization at the URL and QR code on the screen. There's the annual report, which is in the chat. There is the dashboard, which I think we also put in the chat. So lots of different methods. So thank you so much and have a good one, everyone. Happy holidays.